companies today are not really single cloud anymore, right? I'm seeing this with a lot of my customers who I'm training. In fact, next week, I'm training a big financial services company, and they are not a single cloud. They started off being AWS, but then today they're on Azure, they're on GCP, they have different workloads on different things. This is a normal pattern that I'm seeing with most of the companies that, at least at a mid-size, at large scale enterprises, you're typically seeing 2 or even 3 clouds sometimes. So you usually have Azure because you have Active Directory and so on. They have their critical workloads on AWS. You have a small bunch of workloads running on GCP for some specific reasons. Apparently, 98% of enterprises in the public cloud are now multi-cloud, which is astounding to me. But I saw this research yesterday. I was just going through it, and it was crazy to see that a lot of this has become multi-cloud. And enterprises apparently average 2.6 or 2.7 clouds. So which means that they have a combination of private, public, because different cloud providers help you do different things better. So for instance, if I want to do a lot of work in the Kubernetes space, I want to go with probably Google Cloud or something like that. But let's say I want to do a lot of functions as a service and stuff like that, I would rather go with AWS because it's much more standardized there. Today, your security also needs to be something that you deal with across the board, right? You can't just deal with security for AWS and just forget about security for the other clouds that you're dealing with. So that is one point that I'm trying to make here. So we introduced this concept called attack, detect, defend in Black Hat a couple of years ago, and it's become wildly popular since then. The reason it's become popular is simply because today with the cloud, just the attack or just the defense is not really cutting it, right? The cloud gives us a very interesting opportunity, which is to centralize a lot of the incident response. When you look at when an attack happens and you defend it, of course, there are those two things that happen. That's there with everything, right? But in the cloud, the detect becomes one of those things that can have a huge impact. It's also centralized. So in the cloud, you have a lot of native tools that you can use, that you can leverage these native tools to start doing incident response, detection, containment, triaging. You can do all of that with these tools. It becomes a much more central experience. So when we introduce this attack, detect, defend concept, it has become so popular now because people understand that, attack and detect, defend, we understand, or we kind of get, but detect is something that we have no clue. We are kind of using old school tools or old school approaches to detect. There are so many different things you can do. You can automate a large part of the detection engineering. You can automate a large part of eradication and things like recovery and things like that with the cloud. So it gives you a lot of benefit if you think about detect. So the big part of what I want to talk about today is the detection orientation, right? What can you do to detect attacks on the cloud?